So I was thinking this morning, reflecting. That's what happens when you're not lost in your head, by the way. You really, really reflect and things are shown to you. For 31 years, I've been saying to white Americans that y'all need to speak up. And at that time, it was bad, but I knew not speaking up, that would only get worse. And I was saying that, and I wrote about it on WorldNet Daily in different articles, in different places, that white people, y'all need to speak up. You're not responsible for black people, not all, but for most black people being losers in life. It's not your fault. It has nothing to do with you at all, nothing to do with slavery, Jim Crow, or police brutality, or racism. It's all lies. It's just excuses that losers make in life. So white folks speak up, but they didn't. And at that time, I was being told, well, white people have false guilt. They were made to believe or feel guilty about the condition of the blacks. And that's why they won't speak up. I'm like, well, whatever. You will regret not speaking up, not getting involved, not saying no to these things. But the whites didn't speak up, and then things got bad, and they started giving blacks everything they were begging for. And the blacks got worse, right? I'm like, white people, speak up. That's not the problem. The blacks have no character. They're immoral. They have no love. They're angry. It's slavery, Jesse. Leave them alone. It's slavery. And then the black people start knocking the white people out in what they call the knockout games, where they would just go out there and just knock them out in the streets, in the parks, in the neighborhood. I was like, white people, will you speak up now? They were like, nah, let them knock us out. We deserve it. Poor blacks. And so they allowed the blacks to knock them out, their children, the adults. I'm like, well, will you speak up now? Nah. And now look what's going on. It's a mess. If white people speak up now against the blacks, they would be locked up and punished. Where's the Guantanamo Bay Abba people? And so that's what happens when you don't deal with evil within yourself and outside yourself. You're not going to get better. Evil has no love. Really. Anyone that has any iota of anger, their daddy is the prince of darkness, and he has no love, and there is no love in them. God said, anyone who has anger is a murderer. He came he sent his son that you might be of love. And at one time, we had love in America. Really. It's gone. And so there is a war happening to white people from the so-called blacks, well, not so-called, but the blacks. And now the blacks have included black and brown. I remember, and I was talking to Samuel, the car wash boy, last night about it on the phone. And I was saying, why did the Mexican allow the blacks to include them in their mess? Black and brown, right? Because when I first moved to L.A. back in 1968, it sounds like such a long time now. It sounded like Abraham Lincoln was still alive. But at that time, it was just black people fighting white people because they would listen to Louis Farrakhan and Jesse Jackson. And the so-called brown people were not included in that, because it was understood that Mexicans didn't like blacks and blacks did not like Mexicans. They were fighting each other, where the Mexicans were trying to protect themselves from the blacks because they were moving into the country illegally, some legally. They were moving into and at that time, it was Compton and South Central LA area and those places. And a battle was happening. And a lot of blacks left Compton and moved to further west into white people's neighborhood. So it was understood that they didn't like one another. And at that time, I was doing a lot of work in the schools in the Los Angeles area and around the country, Crenshaw and Hawthorne and Manual Arts and other schools. And the Mexicans and blacks were fighting the kids. It was not unusual to see fights in the hallway and in the classroom because the blacks did not like the Mexicans being there. But things start to change after a while because those radical Mexican organizations like LULAC and all those folks, they started to do what the NAACP and others were doing to the blacks, crime racism and so those radical organizations finally joined forces. The NAACP, LULAC, and all of them. There are other Mexican organizations, but I'm more familiar with LULAC. And LULAC is League of United Latin American Citizens, right? And so they're as bad as the NAACP and Congressional Black Caucus, and they are starting to brainwash the regular Mexicans. And now they have joined forces, and the Mexicans are pretending they hate the whites too, right? Black and brown, it just rolls off their tongue now, as though it's real. And in all honesty, truth be told, the blacks and the Mexicans still don't like one another. Really. And that's just because there's no love. When you don't love one, you love none. And this is the way it is. And then you have excuses and you blame. So there's this war going on with the blacks toward the whites. And now they're trying to include the Mexicans. But I'm not falling for that all the way. I know a lot of Mexicans are being educated in the universities and they're being brainwashed too, so they're coming out believing this. So that war been happening. And it's apparent now. It's in the forefront. Even when the parents of Virginia was fighting against this critical race theory thing, where you're teaching the whites that white children that they're evil because they're white. You have white privilege. They're outright doing that, right? And the parents stood up against that, and our government went after them, going to treat them as though they're terrorists. Our government, not Iraq government, but the United States government. And so that war is happening. But I realize, and I've been seeing it off and on, but it's becoming more and more apparent, and it's not being dealt with by a lot of folks. It's a war that's quietly growing, and the people don't see it. There are some men like 21 Summit and others that are dealing with it. And some organizations some other men, a few out there are starting to speak up about it. But there is a war that's coming and it's growing that if it's not dealt with in a quick and wise way right now, we're going to have Sweden in America, the UK in America, and it's going to be maybe the end times. And that war is a war between men and women. And I'm looking around me, and the men in the government, in the schools, in the workplace, in the media, in the homes, are allowing the women, they're like putting the women to the forefront, allowing them to lead. And just because they have a so-called educational degree, they're using that as an excuse. They've been brainwashed to believe, oh, I need a woman I can communicate with. I need this, I need... But that war that is building, you're going to need Jesus Christ himself to come back in person and deal with it. Because these women that you're putting in the forefront, and then they are And if you pay attention, conservative women and liberal women are doing it. In the media, when they have doctors, experts on their little shows, they have women experts, women doctors, women this and women that. Conservative women are doing it, and the weak conservative men are doing it as well, but the women are doing it. All in the name of Jesus. And I'm warning you, you think the war on whites is bad, and it is. It's evil, pure evil. But you haven't seen it, the war that's to come, because women, and not all, but most, because some are waking up. I have to honestly tell you that. But women hate men. They hate them. Conservative women hate men, boys and men. Liberal women hate boys and men because it's not them. It's that spirit that's in them. So it's not the woman herself, but it's her God that made a home in her from below. Satan. She has his nature, and that nature hate the nature of God that's in the male, whether boys and men. It is not uncommon today, not uncommon at all, for when these women are raising boys in the home, they are deliberately turning the boys against the father and recreating the boys in their image and weakening them and making the boys worship them. And when they grow up into adulthood, they're so deceived, it's not even funny. And yet they're so unhappy. It's a spiritual battle that is in the making that most people are not paying attention to because you're being distracted with all this other mess. But let it be known, let it be heard, let it be said. Or let it be said, let it be heard, let it be known. When you put these women in the forefront in the United States of America as they've done in other parts of the world, America, it's going to make the war on white people look like ice cream and cake, like a heyday. Because these women are wicked to the core, and they can't help it. They can overcome it if they were to admit that they have it, that they're angry, that they're out of control. They can overcome it, and by returning to the Father, they can too. But the hardest thing, because Satan is her daddy, the hardest thing for the woman to do is admit that she is wrong. She'll destroy her son. She'll make her son her boyfriend before she let him go, to destroy that God's image in him, to make sure he doesn't grow in the image of God. And this has come from preacher women, so-called counselors with degrees and non-degrees, whatever. There's a war rising. And y'all don't understand the depths of it. And 31 years ago, I tried to warn the whites about these black people attacking them and the evil of it. And they need to speak up. If you don't start speaking up and getting involved, may God have mercy on your soul, right? But there's a war coming with women against men, and the men are not preparing themselves to deal with it because it's a spiritual thing. And if you don't overcome mama, the woman is your God. And you're not going to be able to stand up to God. Your God. That's why you must be born of the Father. You must overcome the mother. Because when women go after you, they get life from causing pain upon you, destroying you. They know, like with men, when they hurt somebody, whatever way, they would kind of feel bad about it later, right? They wish that they had not done it. And they try to understand what happened. But with women, when they hurt you, they get life from it. Like the man get life from knowing God, living from within. The woman get life from living from hell, when she can bring pain upon the children and upon the fathers, upon the men. and among other women. Women don't get along with each other either. Quiet as to be told. But there's a war coming. I'm looking at conservative news media, and I flip through the liberal media. It's all the same, except conservative women cover it up. If you are a conservative man, you won't pay attention to it. You think, oh, that's nice. They have all these women coming on as experts and truck drivers and all that kind of mess. And the men are now helping these women to defeat them in the same way whites are helping blacks to defeat them. Supporting evil. I don't think they're aware of it, though. They have this fear of dealing with the woman, their wives, their sisters, their girlfriends, their mothers, their co-workers. But they don't understand the fear within, because inside they feel fear. So they have to be nicey. But there's a war coming. The women over in Sweden are welcoming the Allahu Akbar people in, the men in, waiting at the gate with open legs, because they're desperate for real men. They're desperate for the love of a father. Same thing is happening here. You look at the women in government, in our media today, they're pushing everything that's wrong. I heard this one so-called conservative, so-called Christian, she always talk about God. And they were having this conversation about black people think that white people don't care about what they have gone through, right? Slavery and all that. And she's like, we do care. This white woman, we do care, all in the name of Jesus. I'm like, who is we, first of all? She always talked in terms of somebody else attached to her. And always about, well, we are really happy to see you. It's just her. Like, what a dummy. But men, there's a war coming. It's growing. While you're fighting against each other and fighting this other stuff, there's another war. As in the good old days, there's this song called There is a Storm Rising, Let's Go Home. Like a rainstorm is coming, let's go home. A storm is coming. And get over it, that nature, so you can be ready for the storm. And last night, I witnessed men desperately wanting to get over that. They know something's wrong. And they want to get over it. And it's a joy to see that. But it's a spiritual battle that only returning to the Father can cause you to overcome it. There's not one human being that I'm aware of walking this earth that can make you or cause you to overcome that spirit. It's clear that you must be born of the Father. All who are born through the woman has her nature. And it's not her nature, once again, it's the nature of her father, Satan, in them. And that nature is wicked. And it doesn't work well with men. Even though it's in him, it's not as natural as it is in the woman. It's unnatural with the woman too, but it really doesn't work well with men. That's another reason men get violent and other things. It's just that spirit in them, they know something's wrong with it. The woman thinks the spirit in her is natural. But the man knows something is wrong. He just doesn't know how to overcome it or what it is. He doesn't know he needs to overcome mama. He'll protect the person that he hates, and that is his mother and or grandmother. So I want you to pay attention. Do what you want, but you're being warned. A war is growing in America that there's not one physical weapon that can solve it. You can't fight this battle with physical weapons. You have to fight this battle with spiritual weapons. The perfect love of God. The love of God will overcome the anger of Satan. But you must be guided in it. Otherwise, you're going to do it the wrong way and screw your own life up. And that's what the women want. They have taught boys and men how to be good women. It's crazy. Even in the good old days, that was happening to a certain degree, but it wasn't as apparent. Older women in the good old days, they were trying not to go with that. They understood that the man was the head of the woman. I want to just say to all people, all around the world, everybody and their mama, but especially to men, your mindset is not your own. That's your mother's mindset. To have doubt, to have fear, to worry, anxiety, all this crap that you're going through, men, that's like your mindset. That's not normal. That's the mindset of your mother, your grandmother, whomever influenced you growing up. There will come a day when I will return the children to the fathers and the fathers to the children. That day is at hand in a mighty, 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 mighty way. And the last thing that Satan wants you to do is to be still, to calm down, and let the Father catch up with you and renew your mind, to bring you back home to Him, and renew your mind to a common, solid, peaceful mind, a wise mindset. And that's why, not the only reason, but one of the reasons that it's so hard for men and women to commit to sitting still. That mindset, which is of the woman, which is of the devil, wants you to be doing something. Pray out loud. Do this and do that. And the last thing the ego wants is to be stillness so the light can shine on it and destroy it. It knows it, but you don't understand it. I can do all I can to point you back to it, but I can't change it. I can't make you do it. I can't change the spirit that made a home in you. I'm just telling you how to get it done. The Father loves you, and He will change it. He does dwell in you. But the light can't come on because you're of darkness. Anyone and everyone, I don't care who it is, how many Bibles you have or don't have, how many degrees, phony degrees you have. If you have anger, you're in the dark, and you cannot see. And Satan made you do some of the craziest things. Really. And he'll make you think what you're doing is right. So I suggest that you commit to being still and knowing the Father. You were created by God. He breathed life into you, and you became a living being. He tried to make it clear to his disciples. I created the birds and the bees, the flower and the trees. And they don't even work. They have no job. They do nothing. And I take care of them. I created you in my image for a reason. What made you think I would not take care of you even greater? But Satan tell you, no, you got to take care of yourself. You're to blame for everything. And you believe it. But do what you want, and you go to these dumb experts with degrees. And they give you medication for spiritual issues. And you get worse. You don't get better because Satan is still working your mind. You just high. And then when you can't get high, now you got to deal with reality. You can't deal with it because you have not developed within with the power of love to endure and overcome darkness. Hate. Do what you want, but I'm telling you, folks, And I'm not telling you anything that I have not had to go through already and going through. But I now have grown and grown. I don't know what tomorrow's going to bring. I'm talking about right now, right here. It's amazing how you will be renewed and how you will be able to endure the conflict within and overcome it instead of taking medication or smoking a joint. But do what you want, all right? But for those who really want to overcome, go forgive your mothers, forgive your father for not protecting you so you can return through him to God. Amazing. And don't forget to like, follow, tweet, subscribe, and share the Jesse Lee Peterson radio show, folks. We really appreciate it. We are at war. It is a spiritual battle for the soul of America. And it's going to take all of us to do it.